Today online, we have a very special guest. Her name is Nadia Toni Jacobs. She is a resident counselor at Belthorn Primary School. She is a highly qualified woman. On Inspiring Talks this month, we are focusing on very strong women. It's a women's series about women that are amazing, that give us hope, and that are resilient to all things that they've gone through. So her qualifications are she's a consultant in social psychology. She's a mindful practitioner and a senior counselor. She's worked in the community for about 30 years. So you say, so just welcome to the show, Nadia.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So you say in your bio that your forte is trauma counseling and teaching victims and survivors a mindful lifestyle and it's mostly based on holistic healing, which is, in your opinion, the
Yes.
healthy option instead of settling on medication. So, if you can just tell us quickly,
Mm.
briefly about the work that you do.
But so the work that I do is formed around the cathartic healing. So what that basically means is that we navigate a process through triangulation, and that basically is um, navigating how the client is going to um, find their path through healing. Okay, so that basically is it's divided, which I call a portal process, a three-way portal process, which starts with a debriefing session. In this session, we create a genogram. So the genogram is your history. Okay, we do debriefing. The client becomes comfortable, and that's where your relationship as a counselor starts with the client. Because you find a lot of clients when they come to you, they're scared, they don't know what they're going to say. So that's what I do to kind of soften the edges. Where you put them also plays a big role. The colors around you, what your room looks like. So I'm one of those people that don't sit and say, okay, what you feeling now? What are you feeling now? My sessions are based on psychotherapy, which is talk therapy, and teaching of mindfulness. So that first when they go home, um, they have to do a class, okay, based on the emotions. The second part of it is pure psychotherapy. So that's where the client talks a lot. Okay, so that too is you have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. The third part of that portal is an analytical report or an assessment, which either goes to the doctor or an organization, or we decide you're going into the support group. So the kids at school, I put them into the support group. Here we decide what the timeline is of the child or client. And if it's going to uh, be over a 3 month period in support group, we then use um, a monitoring and evaluation process. So while they are learning mindfulness, I watch them and I create a little bit of a case where we can see, is the child growing Is the child learning what the behavior is currently like? Is the child what he or she is learning in the support group? Is he practicing that um, outside of my room as well? Because that is what mindfulness is actually about. The fact that you are able to um, not just practice it in between people you're comfortable with, but become an actual mindset practice, an emotional practice.
Mm. You have
Yeah.
such an extensive experience within the trauma world. What are the most common forms of trauma amongst women and girls in the Cape Flats?
So we have what is called, uh, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Generational abuse. That is a really big one. Okay. So we have generational abuse, we have domestic violence, sexual abuse with kids, incest has become it's arisen, um, and basically domestic violence on its own within the families. It's huge. It's growing all the time, and my concern, this is where I love the teaching, um, is that you have people, women and children coming forward and saying, I'm suicidal, I can't take it anymore. Women that's been with husbands for 20 years and they just can't take it anymore. So these cases comes forward. My question and my concern is, what about those women that doesn't have it in them to come forward? What about the child that sits in the classroom and um, feels like no one understands them? They
Mm.
feel they're sticking out like the sore thumb. They're being bullied for some um, racist. That is my concerns, but that is mostly the abuse in our society largely.
Mm. You've mentioned personally that you also suffered trauma and that you're a survivor of trauma. So, how does your own journey influence your approach to counseling and connecting with women you help?
Okay, so my trauma is, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but my trauma was based on domestic violence within my home, alcoholism and drugs, brother and father, beating of mom. I then also went through rape and I went through torture. Okay. And my process and navigating my journey was an extremely long one. Um, I only found peace in the later part of my life. I learned how to find the sun outside because my life was just darkness. What I generally say to women that is going through this is that you have to find your inner peace. The one most common thing I think that most women go through is fear and anger. And those things is fired by then. In fact, I had my occupational therapist ask me one day, how can we use anger for good? And I thought, what the heck are you talking about? Anger is not good. But then I realized later um, that because of my rage, and that is what I went through. I didn't go through just anger. I went through rage where I literally would pick up things and throw it around out of that rage. And I say this to women: if you can destroy your interpersonal relationships because of your anger with people that actually love you, then you haven't found your peace. You haven't protected your peace. And so that is where the essence is. The essence is taking your anger, using it completely, turning it completely around and saying, you know what? I am not just a survivor. I can arise. Women don't know their power. You can arise. You can be better than what you are. You don't need to be a punching bag. You know, you don't need to walk around with all that anger inside of you. Just reach out, just take that first step, you know. And so that is why 15 years ago, Ilham, when I started living a mindful life, I made a decision to teach, because if I could find my freedom, then so can any woman out there. I've been through it all. I've had it all. I I always make this joke. I say like, sure, one day I say to God, not even you want me, because I tried to commit suicide a couple of times already. And it's like, hello, why don't you want me, man? I'm like done with this world. And then I got to find out what my purpose was. And for every woman out there, I think we need to find out what is our purpose here on earth. You know, whether you pray about it, whether it's a mantra, it doesn't matter. But just find your purpose, and then you will find the journey. And then on that journey, you will start healing, and you will start developing your power that already resonates in you, you know?
Mm. Nadia, for someone who's sitting at home and they feel stuck and maybe they going through what you went through, or maybe not at that extent, you saying the first step and they're listening to um what is the first step? Where do they go? What do they do? How do they escape?
Okay, so that question is a bit dicey. Okay, so there's two ways of looking at it. You could look at it from the point of cathartic healing, or you can look at it from a legal aspect. Depending on what the person is going through, um, first initiating the fact that there is help for you, understanding the fact that we're not living in 30 years ago. There are many organizations, these NPOs, there's always somebody waiting to listen and to take your hand. If you need to look at what your needs are. Do you need to leave the home? Do you need to, do you want to report whatever you're going through? Um, what is your need? And based on what you need is also, Ilham, remember that we cannot measure pain. So one person's pain could be domestic violence in the sense where the husband is maybe smacking you. It's not just the smack. He smacks you on a regular basis, but there's nothing else. Now we have another woman that is possibly raped her husband on a regular basis, and you cannot measure up those pain. So you need to know, first of all, do I need empowerment? What type of empowerment do I need? Do I need empowerment with regards to work because I only have a grade 10 certificate? Do I want to learn something that can sustain me financially? So basically, understanding what you need is first of all. And once you know what you need is, then you take the next step.
Thank you so much. That answers the question completely. So, first figure out what your need is
And
and then contact the right people.
yeah,
Okay, so with your focus on
yeah,
mindfulness and holistic healing, what specific techniques do you find most effective in helping women move away from dependency on medication? Because medication has so many side effects and it can be very bad for your body. I'm not saying medication is bad,
yeah.
but your approach is that you come from a holistic, natural healing. So
Mm.
how do you get away from that and stay well balanced?
Okay, so first of all, again, I'm going to go back to anger and fear because that is the ultimate thing that happens with most women and children and even men. Um, the one technique that is the most effective is breathing. That is the best technique. It is over. It's a short practice. It can be a long practice, but if you're in the situation where you get angry or you're going through rage or anything, or somebody's upset you or triggered um, your pain or a situation, um, you go, you can sit, you can go to the loo, you can stand outside and you just breathe, you know. Um, there are different breathing techniques where you can, the short breaths, get your adrenaline going. And then there are the long breaths and the holding in. So you might be going through anxiety, your whole body shaking, and you don't know what to do because somebody's just triggered you. Just move away quietly. Instead, the magic there is in your mindset before you go from thought to action, tapping in the in between, removing yourself from the situation and breathing. That is that part there, and it works like a bomb. And if you practice that on a daily basis, in the morning, you practice just sitting, closing your eyes. You could do a mantra, you could do a prayer, but just being in the moment, breathing, and self-talk. I got this. I'm beautiful. Um, you know, anything that's going to get you going. If there's a song that you love, um, no head banging, something that is serene and quiet. You could even play that and just do breathing. The other thing is visualization. So, visualization I normally do for a support group. Um, and visualization, you could possibly take the clients through a walk in the woods. Okay. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful, peaceful experience. Touching the grass, walking up to the tree, touching the tree, discovering what it feels like. It's an amazing tool to use. And then, of course, if you feel you need more, yoga, Pilates, anything where your body and your mind is active together. So those are the most common things that I basically use.
Mm. Mm. And obviously, now practicing this long term, then the results will show. Because I think we're so in this world of instant gratification where we think, oh, we're going to do it for a week, and then if we don't feel better, we give up. Um, I think we
Yeah,
need to do things long term and think long term. So you work both as subs and in the school
absolutely.
system. You have a unique perspective in terms of how you deal with trauma. How do the needs of trauma survivors differ from those two environments, and what common threads do you see?
Okay, so at SAPS, a client will walk in, okay, and let's say they've or brought their daughter in, she's been raped through incest, just for example. The first point of contact would be the charge office. The charge office will then should, doesn't always happen, but they should then call in someone from the trauma room, which should be based at all SAPs now. And that person will sit with the child or the mom and take them through debriefing. While this is happening, the next point of contact would be your SAPS member. They would then do a statement and then they call in FCS, um, which is your family violence unit. And they would, if it's a child, they would then call in the social worker. The child may need to be removed from our house and so on. The investigation process is through FCS. The difference between that and the school is at school, I may be the first point of contact. So I do the debriefing, then we contact district social worker, SAPS, FCS, and so on. Um, and I know we haven't touched on the justice system, but I just would like to include this, Ilham.
Yes.
Um, through all of this year, our justice system has failed our people so much, and especially our people in the Cape Flats area, because we have a lot of poverty, people that suffer severe poverty, drug addicts, etc. And they go into SAPS, and members at SAPS don't always take them seriously because it's like, ah, you know what, you're a drug addict. You probably don't know half of what happened to you. Or, ah, you're a taxi queen, you know. What were you wearing? We still sit with this mentality, and then the case docket lacks what it's supposed to. It's supposed to be um, uh, um, a full disclosure, etc., etc. So the whoever's taking the statement might not even put in there as much as it's supposed to be. And then when it goes to court, it gets thrown out, or there's not enough evidence because it wasn't dealt with in the proper way, um, or something goes missing. In other cases, witnesses get shot. For example, if it was a gang rape, witnesses get killed. So our justice system fails us so much. They fail us so much. And like I say, especially on the Cape Flats areas. With regards to, I think you asked about the mental aspect, the
Mm-hmm.
medication.
Mm.
Yes. So with all of this happening, and domestic violence, you often find women, they go to the doctors, they say, this has happened to me, I'm stressed, I'm depressed. Now, I feel the term depressed is used very loosely. We come into our workplace and we like say, oh, I'm so depressed today because my washing wasn't dry last night. We need to move away from that because depression is a real mental disorder. So when we go through severe trauma, now you can't sleep. Um, you're having nightmares. You're waking up all hours of the night. You're becoming a chain smoker. You're drinking too much. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes a relaxant, maybe give you something like diazepam or therapeuline, and yes, it relaxes you, but it also contains, it possibly could contain codeine, which is addictive, and it falls under opioids. So it becomes addictive. So what's the next thing? You become an across-the-counter drug addict. Oh no, it's fine. It's legal because the doctor gave it to me. But the doctor's supposed to send you. My thing is some people need to be on medication. That is true. I'm not saying they're not, but give them something for 2 weeks and tell the person to come back. If nothing's changed, okay, let's see if we can send you to a psychologist or psychiatrist. Let's find out really what's happening with you. Um, we do have them at government hospitals. So if there's a monetary problem or you're not on medical aid, there are doctors you can see. You know, don't just take medication because it does hold you captive. It holds you captive because the medication is taking care of the body, but not the emotions. So instead of you going through the emotions first, you are now closing up that part of yourself and emotions. I myself, I only went through mine something like 10 years later after my mom passed away. And I was like, how is this possible? It is possible. So, yeah.
Mm. I totally agree. I feel like medication is to medication when it comes to trauma and when it comes to depression, it's not the root cause that you kind of like patching up what is really wrong. So now you're taking the
Absolutely.
medication and you may be feeling a little bit better, but you're not dealing with the core issue of like the root of the problem. And so maybe
Yes.
this medication won't be enough, and then you need stronger medication. And then it's not about what happened to you anymore. It's about um, what medication can make you feel better. And I think what you're doing is 100% correct, where you need to deal with something holistically and at the core of what is wrong with you. So Women's Month often highlights empowerment. Through your vast experience, what are some crucial skills or mindsets that trauma survivors need to develop to feel empowered?
I think, like I said earlier on, they need to find out first of all what their needs are and what the purpose is. But I think workshops is the perfect place to start. There are many community-based workshops and skills training options and so on, and societal development programs as well. I think there is also um, government related workshops where they will actually pay for your your traveling expenses and so on. So there's quite a bit of that. And people can just Google government related workshops or studies, and especially for ladies, young teens that fell pregnant at the age of 14 and 15, having the kids, and they're too embarrassed to go back to school. So there are programs and workshops that they can attend. Um, I think what is also important is developing skills and not sitting in or moving past the victim mentality mindset. You know, I got a baby, I don't have money, I'm collecting sasa, and that's where you stay. So, and this is also again, um, you can't blame the government for the rest of your life that you're sitting in the situation that you are. You need to become accountable, um, and get into um, the, bring yourself into the motion of being teachable. And what, do you want to learn? If you want to learn, what is it that you want to learn? Do you want to do something like floral arrangement where you can create self sustainability for your family and stop feeling sorry for yourself? I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, what I'm saying is don't sit in the victim mentality. Nobody's going to help you. The man that's beat you up, he's not worried. His life goes on. He's denied, he's made you pregnant, or he's left the family. He's going to come back and say, oh, you know what? I just earned 1,000 rand. Please buy the baby something. That's not going to happen, you know. So, also moving away from being stuck with a rating certificate. If you can go and do night school, these options. And I think, especially with the victim mentality, um, you 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 the excuses become so much that you miss the part of upskilling yourself. You know, so yeah, that's my take on that.
Mm. I think I just want to touch on the victim mentality mindset. I know it is a very difficult thing to go through trauma and to get through it, but once you
Mm,
made it through it, and I agree with you, to get from victim mentality mindset to being empowered is a very difficult step. So it is,
yeah,
we need to hold each other's hands if you've been through something traumatic, but you need to get out of that mindset. You need, it is a big need. And
absolutely.
on the Cape Flats, we have a lot of that. I mean, you were a counselor for 30 years. That is the major thing that is holding women back in our society is we stuck in this victim mentality mindset. And that is why I asked, like, what is the first step? And so that now the people can know. And I also think it's also fear of participation, or I think you're
Yeah,
right, like it's the fear of being judged. So
yeah,
they don't want to come out for workshops. They don't want, you must come out. You need to come
yeah,
out. You can't stay where you are. You need to get away from
yeah,
that space and to be around people of a different mindset, to see them happy, to be part of something joyous or to be part of something empowered. Your whole life changes just by the people that you're surrounded
yeah,
by. So, like if you're in a street and the street is a
absolutely.
terrible street, and you go to the library and there's a workshop there and you continuously go to workshops, your life will change. I think that's what needs to change.
Yeah,
People need to come out more to safe spaces. There needs to be safe spaces. Thank you so much for your time. um I had Nadia Toni Jacobs. She's a resident counselor at Belthorn Primary School. She is a consultant in social psychology, mindful practitioner, and a senior counselor. And she's been working for the communities for 30 years. And you say in your bio that you fell in love with the Cape Flats. Tell us a little on your, just for loss, before we end off, why do you love the Cape Flats so much?
Ilham, I was born in Wynberg, and my dad he was such a strange man. We weren't allowed to do things with people below our standard of living. And I was bullied a lot at school because I came from a prominent family. Um, and then I started, I said to my dad back then, it was apartheid. I went to crafts and I said to them, I want to go to a government school. And I went to uh, Wambuk Senior Secondary School, and I loved it. Then I started meeting friends that my dad spoke about that was uh, a lower income bracket and so on. And I just fell in love with him. And then I got married to a man from Retreat, and I was exposed to Steamboat and Lavendale and all the other areas surrounding the Capricorn. I never knew there was places like this. I didn't know there was places like this that existed. Um, and I fell in love with the people. I honestly fell in love with the people. The same year in Athlone, they call it the play. And, I stood one day, I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning and I went and I said to God, okay, I'm here. What is it that you want from me? And 2 weeks later, I was in a school.